In this episode, I'm going to be showing you how to add an armor and accessory slot along with a hotbar offset, just so it kind of makes it look snazzy. And then we're also going to be covering item swapping, placing, splitting, recombining, and just in general moving around your inventory with the items and making it look juicy with the animations with how it works. You could also equip everything, and it cancels equips if it's not the right proper item. But yeah, let's get into it. Hello everyone, today I'm going to be showing you part 2 of the inventory series, and today we're going to be getting into item swapping. We're going to add the hotbar, we're going to make some extra slots for equipment and accessories, and we're also going to cover splitting and dropping items in your inventory, not on the ground yet. But yeah, the first thing I did was add a new sprite that just carried icons for armor and and like a ring, which is going to be an accessory slot. But yeah, first we are going to cover those, and then we'll get into the other stuff. So now you're going to want to go into your create event of your inventory, and we're going to want to make, so we have the inventory array create here, which is the just general inventory itself. We are going to make the armor slots, which will probably have 4 and then 4 accessories just to match. So we'll do inventory armor. I'm just going to do inv armor equals array create, and then however many slots you want, we're going to make a thing here and just say we're going to say armor slots equals 4. Oopsie. We're also going to say access slots equals 4 as well. And then we are going to set the armor slots here. And we're going to copy this, and I'm just going to do this here. One moment. Okay. And make sure to change this to inventory accessory. I'm just going to do ACC. It's going to be easier. Okay, so now we have the accessory inventory. So now that we have all that, we have all those defined. And just make sure you put accessory slots here and have these set to -1 as well. Now, oopsie. So this is the inventory. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a region for inventory, and then end region at the end of all that. I'm just going to indent that so it's a lot easier to look at. And now I'm going to make a region for the armor slots. And then I'm going to end the region as well. And then same thing with the accessory slots. Just so we have little categories to separate everything. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to copy this for loop. And for the armor slots, we're just going to change that to array length of armor slots. No, we're not. We're going to do inv armor. That's what we're doing. Now, let me think here. Okay, so now to check this slot, we first need to get the coordinates, which in this case, we're doing the middle of the screen. So what we're going to want to do is I want to put it on the right side of the inventory. So we're going to say var xx equals, And since this is centered, we know that. But at 240, that is the technical center. Now we're going to say minus padding divided by 2. And we don't have padding defined right now. Actually, we do. Inventory padding. So we're going to subtract half of that. So now it is at the top left, or top middle, technically. And then we are going to say... Could do the same thing here. Or it gets that same offset. Yeah, we're going to do that, actually. So that offset we had on the inventory, we're going to just take it up until that point. And that gives us the center of where we are drawing that inventory. Not the top left. Sorry. Yep, that gives us the top left of the inventory. Now we're going to say plus. We're going to say inventory width divided by 2 multiplied by padding. Yep, okay. And then put those in parentheses again. And that will now be on the outer edge of the inventory. And we're going to test that before we do anything else. But for here, we actually want to keep the same height. And then we're just going to say plus I mod 1. Or, actually no need to do that. Let's just do I multiplied by inventory padding. And now we are going to do draw sprite. Actually, we're just going to go ahead and take this here for the draw border. We're going to just take that and put it right in here. And we don't have a size mod right now, so we're just going to go ahead and do this. Okay, so it looks like our math is way off. Yep, so instead of inventory width divided by 2, I forgot we're actually at the top left. So I need to do inventory width multiplied by it. And that should be getting the left side, which it is actually there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These are actually armor slots. It's just really hard to tell. So we're just going to do a plus 4 just for a nice little padding between those two. So now you see armor slots there and everything snazzy. Almost tempted to actually put it at the bottom. Very tempting, actually. No, it's fine. We'll keep it there. Okay, next, we're going to want to know if there's an item there. So, actually, what we're going to do is this draw items thing. It also, we're actually just going to take all of these and just paste that in. Now, there's a couple things we need to change, and that is, yeah, just a lot of the variables. But for one, we need the animations. So we're going to go here to the inv animations. We're going to say armor and accessory. So arm and X, and instead of doing inventory total, we're going to be doing armor slots and accessory slots, just like that. And then when we go here, we're going to create 2 more for loops. And I know this isn't necessarily the best way to do it. We're just going to do it, though. Just because sets anim structs. And it doesn't have to look pretty. Programming is not always pretty. Now, we have this here, and now that we have the animation set up, we are going to say, since it's the armor, we're going to say arm anim, arm anim, arm anim, arm anim. Now we're also going to say it right here, and that should get the size for this. Now for this, the draw items, since it is not the inventory, it's the inventory armor, We're just going to replace those. And now that is done. Now, the thing is with the icon, right after drawing the border, we're actually going to draw the extra... Ooh, why isn't that showing up? Slots. And armor is actually the 0 on mine. But whatever you have, just make sure you put the proper sub-image. And instead of drawing it at alpha 1, we're going to do alpha 0.5, just so it's slightly translucent. We're just going to run that and take a look. Yep, there's 4 armor slots. They are all being animated, even though they're different inventories technically. But those are armor slots. Now this may come as a shocker. We're just going to copy this. Go into here. And I know I normally wouldn't put a mount in these, but if you ever had, like, let's say like an arrow slot, it is good to have these. So I'm just going to leave them just in case. And we're going to say accessory, inventory accessory for this one. Make sure you put that up here as well. None of this stuff does have to change apart from an offset, but we'll add that in one moment. Let's just get all these swapped. Accessory anims. Inventory accessory. Just make sure you have all the stuff swapped. Okay, and now, not replacing this +4, we're just going to say inventory padding. Or actually, better yet, inventory +1. And we're going to put those in parentheses. Let's just see what that looks like. It looks like another armor slot, but in reality it is not. We just need to change this icon to 1 for the sub image. And now it is drawing accessory slots, which are all independently animated and looking good. Now the big thing is a hotbar. So for a hotbar, we are actually going to just pretty much from this point, anything below the first bar is just going to be offset on the Y. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to change to 3 slots on the armor and accessory, and then just offset the Y by inventory padding, just so it goes down 1 extra. So it's only lining up with the bottom slots, just because this is the hotbar and it needs to stay separate a little bit. But you can also make a whole separate window depending on how you want to do it. It's fairly easy and fully up to you how you want to manage all this stuff. Same with the coordinates. You're free to change it. I just like the automation kind of feel of it. But anyways, what was I doing? I was going to do the hotbar. So in the inventory part, so we're just going to minimize this armor and accessory slot. And that's why I like regions. It's just kind of like little folders that you can minimize and re-expand. Super easy for making big areas of code. But now for this inventory, what I'm going to do for the hotbar is right after we calculate the Y, we're going to say check hotbar to offset. And I'm going to say if I is greater than inventory inv width, then YY plus equals, and then the offset you want, I'm just going to put 4. And that'll actually just pretty much do that for you. And now you see there's a gap between this and this. Oh, except for that one slot. Less than or equal to? Is that right? Yeah, less than or equal to. And then now you see the slots here offset improperly. So all you got to do, whatever you have set here, just go replicate it. So where I have this +4, needs an extra 4. So turn it into an 8. And then an 8 there. And now, ooh, jeez, that didn't work. My bad. I have to add 4 onto both of them, the X and the Y. I completely forgot. That was the X. Just like that. And now, if I run it, if I did it right this time, yep, there it is. The armor, accessory, hotbar, inventory. You can kind of have a glance and just kind of notice what's going on in the inventory without really needing to pay too much attention. But yes, that is how you do that. Now, we got the hotbar extra slots. Now we're going to work on swapping and splitting items. So if I hit spacebar, it'll add items. I can hover on them. I just cannot click or drag them or take some of them. That is what we're going to be doing. So in your inventory, we're just going to make some, I'm going to say dragging vars, I guess. And we're going to say drag data equals undefined. I actually don't like how I named that. Drag data equals undefined. Now we're going to go into our inventory functions, and we're going to make a new inventory function. We're going to say inv drag, or let's just say take stack. So we're going to do take stack. We're also going to do split stack, place stack, and also place 1. Now, the big one is going to be the placing stack. That's going to be the hardest one. But take stack is going to be really easy. And we're going to say if... we should probably pass in the inventory and slot. We're actually going to be doing that with all of these. Inventory and slot. So the take stack one, we're pretty much just going to look and see if there is a stack first. So, actually first let's check if we're currently dragging something. So if O inventory dot drag data. So instead of saying inv on this one, we have to reference the object of drag data. So if inventory drag data is not equal to undefined, then we're just going to one-line this and say return. So it pretty much says, hey, we can't do this, so don't continue looking. So that's a good safety check to have. And we're actually going to take this on the split stack, do the exact same thing. And the inventory place stack, we're going to say the opposite. So if it is equal to undefined, then give up. Same thing with place 1. Those are important safety checks just so the game doesn't crash or so it doesn't over search for variables that you don't need. Now, if we're trying to take a stack, we need to know if that slot even has an item. So we're going to say if inventory slot is not equal to -1, meaning it has an item, then we're just going to say oInventory.dragData equals, and then in curly brackets, this is a struct. We're going to say item, and then we're also going to get the amount. And do I really need... Yes, I do need some other stuff as well. I need a from inv to inv. And then I need to say from slot to slot. And the reason I'm putting these is just because I forget them a lot and I need to put them in. So first, let's get the item. We're going to say inventory slot 0. Oopsie. We're just going to copy that. For the amount, inventory slot 1. Now from the from inventory, we're just going to pass in the inventory and from slot that. Now for the other two, we don't know where we're putting it yet. So we're just going to put undefined. So now, boom. We now have the drag data set, and we're going to say return and also return right there. I just personally like doing it. Cleans up the code. And you could even return the drag data. I just personally don't see a need for it. So, anyways, the split stack. We're going to do a very, very similar thing. We're just going to paste this exact same thing here. But instead of taking the whole stack, we're going to split the stack. So if it has an item, var half equals, let's see, half is going to be equal to, let's do ceiling of inventory slot 1, so the amount, ceiling of the amount divided by 2. So if it's, let's say there's one item, it'll return 0.2, but then it'll take the ceiling of that, meaning it'll just round up to 1. So if there's only one there, it'll take 1. If there's 2, it'll take 1, because half of 2 is 1. If there's 3, it'll give you 2. If there's 7, it'll give you 4. Quick math. Now instead of passing the amount as that, put the amount as half. Now, since we are taking half, we do need to take away from the original. So we're going to say slot 1 minus equals half. And then with that one case of the 1 being remaining, we're going to say if inventory slot 1 is less than or equal to 0, then we're going to say inv slot equals, -1. And it's still from the same part of the inventory, same for the 2, and everything else here is proper. So it's still the same kind of item. Now, we are going to do place stack. So this is going to be setting down the whole amount, and we're already checking here to see if we even have something to drop. And since we do, that's good. Like I said, this one is going to be the hardest, so buckle down and really stay focused here. We're going to get this one. So, since we know the inventory in the slot, we are going to be put it in the place stack. So we first have to check if inv slot is not equal to -1. So that means drag to empty. So we are putting in empty. Or let's just do a little arrow. It's going into an empty slot. So the easiest thing here is just saying the slot, inventory slot equals, now, yeah, this is the easiest solution. We're going to say var dd for drag data equals drag data. Just so it's easier to reference, we can say dd.item, dd.amount, and return. That's the easiest one, but if it is not an empty slot, now we need to figure out if it's the same item or if it is a different item. So we're going to say if inventory slot, oh, oopsie. I meant to say is equal to -1 here, and the else is it is not. So same or different. Now, if inventory slot 0.name is equal to dd.item.name, that's SS. So this is pretty much just comparing the names of the two items, seeing if they are in fact the same item. Same item. And then we're just going to do an else again, and this one is going to be different item. Swap. And then I'm just going to put stack. So if it's the same item, it'll add to the stack if it can. And if it's a different item, it'll completely swap the two slots. So, with the same item one, this is probably going to be the easier one out of the two. Well, kinda. So we do have, in fact, our global.stack size. That's going to be useful for this one. But the first thing to know is if item, or dd.item, dot stacks, we're going to say not. So if it does not stack, doesn't stack, that's obviously going to be an issue. So we are going to say dd.inventory from. There actually is going to be a couple issues here. So we're actually going to make one other function here. That's going to be function inventory find open. And the reason why we're doing this is if we try to return an item to a previous slot and you happen to pick something up at the same time, it'll overwrite that slot and it'll be weird. So, because when you're dragging, that slot you came from should be completely empty, or it would have some in it. So, but if it's a different item, it needs to return it to a new slot. So inventory. So all we have to pass in here. Say for var I equals 0, I is less than the array length of inventory. And then we're going to say if inv I is equal to -1. That's how we're going to know it's going to be an empty slot. We're going to say return I, else return 0. That's just a safety check. And yeah, just so the game doesn't crash, but it will overwrite a slot. If we do a find open and there's nothing, we'll just try to find a way to fix that. But for now, let's just return 0. We're going to go back down to this here. So if your item doesn't stack, we need to just return it. So, actually, a good way to do this is and we're just going to say it stacks. This will make it a lot easier because this will do the swap or return if it can. So we're going to say if dd.inventory from inv and dd from slot is equal to -1. So that means nothing replaced it is open, else not open, find new. We're going to say var slot, actually s equals inventory find slot or find open of the inventory that we are dragging in, or actually from the from inventory, just in case we're going to a chest or something. Then we are going to say if s is actually, yeah, we're going to go back up here and we're going to deny it if it returns undefined, just because sometimes it would not be good. If we allowed it, if s is not equal to undefined, then try to think. Okay, yeah. So if s is not equal to undefined, then we're going to say from inv s, because this is the new slot that we found, equals dd.item dd.amount. And there we are. And that is also going to return, and we're also going to say inventory.drag data equals undefined. And I actually forgot to put that up here as well. For dragging to an empty, we need to reset our drag data, saying that, hey, we already dragged it. Now, if the slot is open and we need to perform a swap, yep, so pretty much if it is open, the one that's there will go where you came from, and the one you have will go to where that one is. So in that exact order, we're going to say inventory, dd inventory from, or from inv, dd dot from slot equals, and we're just going to say inv slot. It'll carry over all the stuff that was in that slot and put it where the others came from, and then you're going to say inv slot equals dd dot item, oops, make sure it's an array, and then dd dot amount. I know this looks really confusing, and it really is. That's why I have to think about it so hard. But yeah, so that means we fully swapped everything, and we're just going to say inventory drag data equals undefined, and then return because we have everything there. Now, if it is the same item and we need to stack, this one is the confusing one. And if everything else was confusing, buckle up because we are in for a tough ride here. So now we got to get into some math. So we're going to do the easy case first. So var can add equals global.stackSize. So do keep in mind this is if the item stacks minus what is currently in the slot. So if there's an item in the slot and it can stack, then we need to find how many it can hold more. Like how much more can it hold? And we're pretty much just going to compare and see how much we are holding currently or dragging, and then compare. Because there's going to be two different cases in this. So we're going to say if can add is less than, let's see, we're going to say less than or equal to dd.amount. Can add is less than. It's less than. Okay, yep, that's perfect. So can't add all. Actually, I'm just going to say add all. And we're going to change this to greater than or equal to. Then we're just going to add the rest of it into this, which this one's super easy. We're just say that plus equals dd.amount. And then we are going to say those two lines, inventory.dragData equals undefined, and return. Now, if we can't put everything into that slot, we are going to say, okay, yeah, this is gonna be tough. So if we can't fit everything, we are going to see, so we know how many we can add. So what we can do is we're gonna say dd.amount minus equals can add, and then we're gonna say slot 1 equals global dot stack size, because it's gonna max it out. And we could also say plus equals can add, but I'm just gonna be safe and do stack size just because it can get a little wonky at times. Now, that's always gonna be the case. But now, what are we going to do with the remaining amount? So, what we're going to do here is var remaining equals dd minus dd amount, sorry, minus can add, and that's how many we have left to put somewhere. So now we're going to say this classic line here, if dd from inv dd from slot is equal to -1, meaning where we were dragging originally, is it still open? And if it is, awesome, but there is a chance it is not. So this is a super safe system, or at least I'm trying to make it safe. It looks super complicated, and it really is, but math is not necessarily the easiest thing. So if it is open, what we're going to do is just put it all back in there. So we're going to say this exact thing right here equals dd item, dd amount. Perfect. And now, since we got rid of all of it, make sure you do the O inventory drag data equals undefined and return. And then before I do anything else, I'm going to add a return way at the bottom of this function, just so it doesn't get, I don't know, I just like doing it. Now, this case isn't open, so we're going to find new, and I'm just going to say return to previous. And actually, actually messed this up here. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, we don't even need to do all this. We're already doing that. So don't even calculate the remaining because we have it right here. And dd amount is actually the remaining amount. I completely forgot. So now here, if it isn't open, we're going to say var s equals inventory find open. If s is not equal to undefined, meaning we have room in the inventory and we found one in inventory, forgot to mention, then we're going to do the exact same thing here. And if s is there, then we're going to say item amount and then reset. That should be the entirety of every single case for the swapping. Super complicated, and I promise this one's not near as bad. So now we're going to move on to place one. We're going to say if inventory slots is not equal to -1. So we're going to say has item check to stack. And we're going to say, actually we're going to put an else here as well, because if it's an empty slot, it should still allow us to do it. But if it is an item, we're going to say if inventory slot 0.name is equal to, so if what's in the slot's name is equal to dd.item.name, and we actually didn't define dd this time, so we're going to do that, which just like that, which is the drag data. So if it is the same, then we are going to say inventory slot 1 plus plus, which just adds 1 pretty much. And then we're going to say dd.amount minus minus, and then we're going to say if dd.amount is less than or equal to 0, then O inventory.drag data equals undefined. And then here we're going to say return, and that's just so it doesn't create an infinite loop where we are in the negatives and we're duplicating items. We just need to check after every drop just to make sure. Now, that's checking to see if it does. If it doesn't, then it just doesn't work. We're actually just, we don't even need to say that either. Now here, I'm going to put return at the bottom, and then I'm going to say, so if it, we're just going to say to empty, just like that. I'm overthinking this way too much. So if it's empty, then we have to say inventory slot equals dd.item 1, because it's the first one in the thing, so we have to set it. And then we're going to say the same thing here, the dd minus equals amount, amount minus minus, sorry. And then we're going to say if the amount is less than, then reset, and then return. And that is actually all of the functionality there. Now, it won't actually do anything yet because we don't have it set up with any input. So where we have the if point and rectangle, all of that, we're going to say, just underneath this stuff, we're going to say check inputs, and this is for the inventory, keep in mind. We're going to say if mouse check button pressed. So what we're going to do first is say inventory. So the ones that would be left click is picking up and placing a stack. So first we're going to say place stack. Inventory, which is the name of the array, and then I, which is the index of this for loop, which is the current slot. Then right after that, we're just going to say, instead of place, we're going to say take. And it's going to do the exact same thing here. And we're going to do the same thing with MB right. Just like so. And then we're also going to say, since this is the inventory, we're going to say the size equals 0.8, just to show that we're clicking on it, to give it a little bit of, feedback. Do the same thing with this one as well. So place stack. I'm trying to think. In this, we have to first say place 1. And same thing there. And then instead of this, we're going to do split stack. So now, if we go ahead and run this, it should hopefully work. So if I click, okay, yeah, so I see the first issue. I clearly have more than I should, which I now have the rock, which is really weird. Okay, so there's clearly an issue somewhere in my inventory take stack, which I believe I already see it. So when you take the stack, we're not actually setting that slot to equal nothing. So we're going to say inventory slot equals -1, setting it equal to nothing. And that is perfect. And we're also not setting to inventory or to slot. We are setting this here for the split stack and place stack. Okay, so for place stack, we actually do need to set the drag data. So we're gonna say O inventory right above the DD, O inventory.drag data, dot, let's see, to inventory equals inventory, and then we're also gonna say right below that, to slot equals slot. We're going to take that same thing and put it for place 1 as well, right above DD. Doesn't matter too heavily though, as long as it's above the if. And now that we have that, let me just try to think if that works here. So if I click, it'll delete what's in there, and when I click again, it does not do it, but if I right click, it is placing 1. Okay, we're not doing a safety check here. For splitting stack, if it is equal to undefined, then we... Oh, it's not equal. If it's not equal, we return... Take stack, not equal, return. And then for placing, if it is equal, and then equal, and that, this is interesting. We're actually going to display what's going on here, because I'm actually really confused. Draw text, 1010. O inventory.drag data. I'm actually gonna pause the video quick while I figure. Okay, I think I figured this out. So the issue is the way we have this set up is it does both of these inputs and it's registering both at the same frame. I guess I didn't realize it would do that, so I'm gonna say right above here, right above the, oopsie. Right below check inputs, we're going to say var dd equals drag data, just like so. And then Since drag data is local to this object, we can just keep it there. While the functions can be ran in any object, we just have to be safe with that. But this is safe since it's in the inventory object. So we first have to say, to take a stack, if dd is equal to undefined, well, we have to do it within the same call. So then we do an else to place the stack if it is not equal to undefined. And then the same concept here, we're just going to paste that. Split stack is the same as taking. Place one is like setting, just like that. And now, if we go ahead and run this, I have this little debug thing here. If I click, it says we have the item. I click again, it places the item. And now, if I add a couple more, and if I see I have 10 meat, if I right click, it should split the stack. And if I click again, it'll place 5. And now it says I have nothing that I'm holding. Right click this, leaves 2, takes 3, place 3. And if I click it again and place it on the rock, it adds it back to the stack. If I take the meat to the rock, it should swap them. Perfect. Meat to meat. And then if I also right click while I have stuff, I'll right click and I'll drop one at a time and it returns back to 10, just like so. But you do see when we're dragging, we can't actually see any of the items we're holding. So we're going to tackle that now. And we're going to make an inventory function here and just say function inventory draw drag. Now this one's easy. We're just going to say same thing here, var dd, just to make it super easy to type and read. We're going to say if dd is not equal to undefined. Actually, we're going to say if it is equal to undefined, then return, just so we don't have to do a whole nest. And then we're going to see here, draw sprite, ext, dd.item.sprite, 0x mouse. Ooh, so this actually depends on your guys' game. If you're using a draw GUI, which I am, so you might be, then we'll use a different thing. But if you're using just a normal draw event, you could do mouse X and mouse Y, just like this. But since we're using GUI, we have to say device. Actually, I'm going to store this above here. Var xx equals device mouse x to GUI 0. Var yy equals device mouse y to GUI device 0. And then the coordinates is xxyy that we stored. Scale 1, 1. And then the rotation, we're going to say 0, see white, and 1. And actually, when we pick it up, I kind of wanted to bob the size of the thing we're holding. So I'm going to say drag size equals 1. And now in the step event, just kind of somewhere here, we're going to say drag size equals lerp, drag size 1.1, or 0.2. Now in here, we are going to say, same thing here, but instead of X scale, we're going to say drag size and drag size. And make sure you say, oh, inventory dot drag size, because it is a local thing and it can be handled anywhere. And now we're drawing the sprite. We need to draw the amount though. So item amount. So if dd.amount, let's just store amount here. dd.amount. If amount is greater than 1, then we're going to draw text this exact same way we do in our inventory. So I'm actually just going to copy this just like that. Go to inventory functions here, and then just paste that in. And obviously, actually no, that is actually all perfect. We might have changed the location or something here, but that should draw the amount if it is applicable. Now just make sure you copy this function, and we go into our inventory, and at the end of draw GUI, and I'm gonna get rid of this thing here, just put draw inventory drag, and I'm gonna make it a region inventory drag. And I'm going to put draw. And region. And just do that. And then I'm going to minimize that. And then also go back to your inventory functions here. When you do place one, if it does apply to everything here, we are going to say, underneath all this, we're going to say size. We're going to say inventory dot drag size equals 0.8. And we're going to put that in pretty much everything here. It's the same thing here. Right underneath. And then the split stack, if it has an item. This is only if it has an item. Make sure it's in there, because we don't want it to do it if you don't have an item. Actually, it wouldn't really matter terribly much, but we're just going to keep it there. And now, as long as you have that, we can go ahead and run the game. We're going to add those items. If I click, it does a little, very subtle animation. But it does show the item we're holding, and if we right click, it shows the amount we're dropping, just like that. And we can swap items, and we still have the hotbar and everything here. Now, if I try to drag it into this slot here, obviously nothing happens. That is because if we go to our inventory here, these check inputs, this is only on the inventory section. So if we were to just copy this check inputs, and minimize inventory, go to armor slots, and just for the sake of organization, we're going to put it in the exact same spot, so it's going to be right under this part here with the arm anims. Throw it right in here. Now, there's a couple things we need to change. Instead of inventory, we need to do inventory armor, and make sure you do arm anims. Inventory armor and arm anims, just like that. Now we're going to copy it again, and now we're going to go into the accessory slots, and now we have inventory accessory, and then accessory animations, just like that. Now if I were to go ahead and run this game, it should work perfect. If I take this log and I were to place it in here, it lets me. They are acting as normal inventory slots now, and you could still swap and do everything here. But we do want to do a check if it is armor or an accessory. So what we're going to do, we're going to go into our items here. So we have resource, consumable, and tool. Now we need an armor and accessory, because we do not have those in the game yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try, actually I'm just going to create a really quick sprite, armor and S ring. Actually, I realize this is incredibly silly. I'm actually going to use these sprites, S armor and ring. The ring, I'm just going to delete that, and I'm going to paint this pink just so it has a color, so it doesn't blend in. And then the helmet, we're going to make it green or something like that. Now we're going to go into the items, do the same thing we did in the last episode, just how to make the items. We're going to make something called armor, stacks, false. This is a armor piece, and this is a S armor, and then geez, I'm breaking my own rules. Make sure to capitalize those. And then ring, S ring, and accessory, stacks, false. So now we have those items. We're going to go into here just so we could randomly add them, and I'm going to make this look a little easier to read here. A little easier on the eyes as a list. Do that, then that, then that. Just like that. Now, we're going to say global dot item armor. Oopsie. Armor. And we're going to say global dot item ring, just so they're possible items when I hit space to get. now you may be asking, how do we check to put it in the inventory? Now, if you think about how this will work, we're going to start with the armor. It checks to pick stuff up, which that's perfectly fine. We should always allow picking up the items out of it, but the issue is placing items. So, place stack and place one. We're going to say, if dd, because this is in the case that dd is not equal to undefined, if dd.item.type is equal to itemType.armor, then allow you to place the item. And same thing with this one here. Perfect. And while we still have that copied, go down to the accessory. We're going to do the same thing, except to make sure it's an accessory. Just like that. Perfect. Now if we go ahead and run this, we're going to add a bunch of random stuff. If I were to try to put wood here, it is not letting me do anything here with wood. But if I take this ring and I try to put it in armor, it doesn't work. But when I click that, it puts it in there. And now if I try to put armor here, put it there, perfect. That is pretty much how that works. And if we want to do something with how we click and you want to do auto equip like a shift click, we can also do that. But we will do auto equipping in the next episode because this one is running a bit long and I will need to get going to bed soon. So anyways, so yeah, today we covered swapping, hotbar, extra slots, and splitting. Anyways, if you guys liked the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more of the series, and I will be out soon with a couple more episodes. Anyways, have a good night.